of the Business Committee, I call on Paul Foster-Bell to make his maiden statement. Paul Foster-Bell.
Tēnā Mr. Speaker. Ena mana, ena reo, ena karanga maha e hui hui nei, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Mr. Speaker, members, family, friends and supporters, it is with a mixture of exhilaration, aspiration and trepidation that I rise to make a maiden statement in this 50th Parliament of New Zealand. I am delighted to be joining the parliamentary team of the National Party led by the Right Honourable John Key. National is, I believe, the only party capable of leading the sound, stable and sensible government that this country needs. This government is delivering the increased economic growth rates, thriving and safer communities, efficient public services and personal freedoms which all Kiwis want and deserve. I congratulate the Prime Minister and his excellent ministers for their unstinting work in untangling the mess created by 9 years of socialist misrule and in leading this nation to a brighter future in years to come. It is a real honour to serve as an elected representative of the people of our beautiful country. At the same time, it's almost impossible not to be awestruck by the weighty responsibilities of a new MP. Enacting the laws of the land, scrutinising government expenditure, assisting constituents with their issues and having input into the policy of the governing party must all be taken very seriously. I intend to keep my head down and learn from older and wiser members. I'm grateful to the Honourable Chris Finlayson QC, the Honourable Judith Collins, the Honourable Tony Ryle, the Honourable Nick Smith, the Honourable Bill English and all the National MPs of the 2011 intake in particular, as well as the entire National Party team for their advice and the warm welcome they've given to me to this House. Mr. Speaker, I particularly look forward to being a member of this House when the National War Memorial Park is opened in Wellington, where I am based. The centenary of Gallipoli marks a momentous event in our evolution towards independent nationhood a century ago. And the plaques in this chamber commemorating that campaign and others in which New Zealanders have fought serve as a constant reminder to members of the Kiwi lives lost to secure our democracy and to safeguard our way of life. As John Key said, the National War Memorial Park will be a significant legacy to commemorate the centenary of Anzac Day. It is a special gift to the capital and will become a wonderful civic amenity as well as a focal point for the national commemorations. Earlier plans for a National War Memorial Park fell by the wayside through neglect by a previous government, and the current precinct remained divided by State Highway 1 until Chris Finlayson and Jerry Brownlee set out to deliver on a vision for an upgraded Buckle Street area. I look forward to supporting other initiatives which will contribute to Wellington remaining a thriving and wonderful place to live. Mr. Speaker, given a maiden speech is one of the very few occasions in this chamber when a member may make references to guests in the public galleries, I ask that you indulge me in mentioning a few special people who are here today. I would like to acknowledge the President of the National Party, Peter Goodfellow, the Board of the National Party, and in particular Lower North Island Chairman Malcolm Plimmer and the lovely Linda, and all the office holders, activists and members of the party who have supported me. I'm very grateful for the help of our wonderful people locally in Wellington. I was most fortunate to have as my campaign chair Brett Hudson, who put an enormous effort in 2011. I'd also like to thank stalwart campaign and executive committee members, Dr Pat McCarthy, Murray Radford, Richard and Elaine Westlake, Sir Christopher and Lady Anna Harris, Graham and Judith Sugden, Peter Milne, Alistair Scott, Aaron Harpe, Chloe Oldfield, Brian Anderton, Carolyn O'Fallon, Carsten Shoesbo, Karina Aiken, Haimona Gray, Jim Guo, Joe Rousseau, Bridget Ann Fowler, Raina McAllister, Victor Corty, Liam Munro, Dr Rosie Finnick, Julian Light and Henry Williams, as well as Cameron Pickering, who's come down from Christchurch, or up from Christchurch, I should say. Many thanks to the Super Blues, especially Nancy MacDonald, Joan Farrance, Pam Finlayson, Bernie Paul and Patricia Morrison for their kind assistance, and thank you to David Farrer and Neil Miller for their guidance. We were also very well supported by an exceptional group at Party HQ, Joe, Greg, Cam, Liam, Donna, Beth and Sean. And to the hundreds of volunteers who gave so much of their time, thank you all so much. I want to make special mention of the Young Nats. This was the group that gave me my start in politics, and I am thrilled that they have never been in such good heart and strength on the campuses of New Zealand as they are today. I would like to acknowledge Dan Fielding, who led the Young Nats over 3 years, and Sean Topham, who is capably chairing it today, Christian Hermanson, who chairs the regional Young Nats, and Joel Rowan from our local Vic Nats branch. The Young Nats won some real victories on long-standing youth issues in recent years, lobbying to successfully remove compulsion from student unions, keeping the age of purchase of alcohol at 18, addressing teen depression and suicide, and supporting equal access to marriage for all Kiwis. I hope the Young Nats keep rattling cages and keep me on my toes as a new MP. To friends who could not make it today, Malcolm and Marion Cone in Temuka, Peter and Sarah Walker and Robin Broughton in Dunedin, Ali Ludeman in Oamaru, Professor John and Jenny Leader in Blenheim, Emma Mallow-Sanford in Sydney, Tiffany Cone in Canberra, Keziah Bibby in England, Jeff and Chris Pope in Seattle, the Kamek family in Jakarta, Johnny and Chantal Rayner-Burt in Italy, along with my godson Hugo. I'm most grateful for the loyal support I've consistently received from you over the years. And most importantly, I would like to pay tribute to my family. To my parents, Bob and Elise. A child could not have had a better start in life than I got, thanks to you. The example set by you, Dad, of putting your family above all other concerns and working every hour of the day to provide for them was an outstanding one. And Mum, the lesson you taught us, that learning is something to be treasured, and with a sound education the world can be one's oyster, is something that I hope one day every Kiwi kid will be inculcated with. I couldn't be prouder that after more than 30 years you're on the cusp of completing your own PhD. I would also like to send special greetings to my brother and sister, Sian and Greg, my niece Caitlin, Grandad is Robert Foster Sr., who will be watching this on the TV in Whangarei along with Dulcie, and warm regards to my Auntie Eleanor Ashcroft, who will be tuned in along with Vic Reid in Rotorua. Mr Speaker, I have been privileged to serve our country both on and offshore in the Foreign Service over the past 9 years. It was a real pleasure to work with some of the most capable and dedicated senior officials in this country's public sector. Ambassadors Hamish McMillan, Rod Harris, Jonathan Austin and Wendy Hinton, to name a few, as well as some of the absolutely first-rate colleagues and workmates, both Kiwis and locally engaged staff. I've also enjoyed a range of experiences overseas which few visitors to other countries get, including seeing from a behind-the-scenes perspective how a number of countries really operate. Mr Speaker, of all the countries I worked in, none is as free as New Zealand. Some, such as Iran, would actually fall at the opposite end of any objective scale, measuring corruption, transparency or the rule of law. Thankfully, it is the people of New Zealand, not the state, who have a larger degree than almost anywhere else in the world of power over their own lives and the ability to decide their prospects for the future. This reminds me of a quote from the late great Baroness Thatcher of our right to have the state as servant and not as master. On that freedom, all our other freedoms depend. This is just as true today as when the Iron Lady first said it. We should be rightly proud of the advances towards freedom which we have made, but there are areas where further work is needed, in my view, if we are to retain our place as a country where liberty and freedom of speech, of thought, of belief and of action are cherished. The abolition of blasphemy as a criminal offence for which one can be imprisoned for up to a year is one example of such an area crying out for reform. Mr Speaker, of all the countries I spent time in, none is as clean, as green and endowed with such pristine natural environment and spectacular scenic splendour as New Zealand. In demonstrating that economic growth and environmental values can go hand in hand, and showing that good science is essential to high-quality environmental decision-making, New Zealand is leading the way. I'm glad that New Zealanders are able to enjoy our unique birthright to access our special places, the beaches, rivers, lakes and mountains for which our land is rightly renowned. Mr Speaker, of the other jurisdictions I have worked in, none is as well served by their public servants as ours. Across a range of departments, from MFAT, the Treasury, MBIE, through to Defence, the Security Services, the Police and the Prime Minister's Department, I've worked in and for a state sector which has seen increasing levels of resource shifted to front line from bureaucracy and administration, which is operating more efficiently than ever before and which is carrying out this government's policies to achieve unprecedented positive results. Results like the lowest crime rate in a generation or record numbers of elective surgeries for those who need them. Mr. Speaker, of the developed economies I have visited, few are as well positioned as New Zealand to ride out the world's current period of economic instability, and a lot of that is thanks to our excellent Minister of Finance, the Honourable Bill English. We are well positioned to take advantage of the opportunities offered by exporting to a rapidly growing Asian middle class, or by servicing the food security needs of the arid but prosperous Gulf states, or by hosting increasingly high-value tourists and students from abroad in our safe, tolerant and welcoming nation. Now, none of this is to say that we have all the answers here in our island home. Quite the opposite, in fact. There is a lot we can learn from other successful smaller states, such as Singapore or the UAE. And of course, as a small trading nation, we are utterly dependent on a stable, rules-based world order to ensure our own future prosperity. Our first woman Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Dame Jenny Shipley, tidily summed up this concept when she said that New Zealand needs the rest of the world a heck of a lot more than the rest of the world needs New Zealand. This sentiment certainly echoes my own experiences in the field. Mr. Speaker, the National Party was founded 77 years ago as a coalition between sectors which were diverse in origins but which had aligning interests and shared objectives. National's founders were those in the productive sector, whether farmers or urban manufacturers. They were those in business, both employers and employees, professionals practising on their own account and tradespeople. They were those hard-working mothers and fathers who aspired to a better life for their children, equal treatment for everyone, irrespective of colour, creed or class. They were those who valued property rights for themselves and others and who wanted a limited government which encouraged free enterprise and rewards for effort. National is still the bastion of equal opportunity and the rule of law. These timeless values are why the public has elected National to the Treasury benches for 40 of the past 60 years. Our party continues to govern in the interest of all New Zealanders, and that is why I am proud to call myself a National Party member. Mr. Speaker, I have come to this esteemed place to do more than simply occupy a seat. Sir, I have come to this House to support sound economic management, growth and sensible public spending. I stand firmly against ruinously high borrowing, inefficient public services or incentivising irresponsibility through unfettered welfare. I have come to this House, sir, to back the Prime Minister and this government. I stand resolutely opposed to socialism and its overweening conceit that redistribution and governmental meddling in private enterprise can deliver positive outcomes for our people, for they cannot. In the words of Sir Winston Churchill, for a nation to tax itself into prosperity is like a man standing in a bucket and trying to pull himself up by the handle. I have come to this House, sir, as a champion for trade, tourism and closer linkages with other countries and the transformative effects these can have through higher incomes and more employment. I repudiate xenophobia and protectionism which damage our overseas relationships, our reputation and our earnings. Mr. Speaker, I have come to this House to advocate strongly for our capital city and for all the residents of Wellington Central and Hutt South. I have come to this House, sir, as a blue-green. I want to see pragmatic protections for our stunning natural environment, balanced against the need to derive economic benefits where appropriate from our national resources. I have come to this House, sir, as a blue Liberal and a defender of diversity, of liberty and equal treatment by the state for all of its citizens. I will be a trenchant enemy of any laws which seek to implement here in New Zealand the hideous apparatus of the police state. In the words of our national anthem, may our mountains ever be freedom's ramparts on the sea. I have come to this House, sir, as a proponent of the constitutional monarchy which has served us so well for over 170 years. I will fiercely resist any measures which seek to weaken this essential pillar of our robust democracy. Mr. Speaker, to paraphrase Alfred Lord Tennyson, I have come to this House made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to seek, to strive, to find and not to yield. I look forward to working with you, sir, and all like-minded members to achieve these objectives. Thank you.
Order. I call on Claudette Hoiti to make her maiden statement.
Ko whetu matarau